Thank you for bearing with us all, everyone. I'm going to present a response that's formed to Maud Salter's practice, and more specifically, it's responding to the works that are in this show, but also there's a show of her work at Tramway Gallery in Glasgow that is showcasing a lot of her video and her poetry. There were recordings of her poetry in that. And yeah, I've got some lovely readers with me. And there is also, I've developed a piece that also has a part for a chorus. So I'm wondering if I have, since we're like in a really collaborative, we're all warmed up, we've done some chants, I'm wondering if I have some like volunteers to like lead the chorus in some reading. The parts are in blue. Put your hands up if you feel like you want to do some reading. No one? Anyone? Oh, okay. Wow. Okay, we've got a big chorus at the back. That's brilliant. We can lead from behind. Amazing. So essentially, we're just going to be reading the script. This is the first time we've ever done this, so like bear with us if we like falter and slip. But I think that's all part of it. And yeah, the chorus is comes in. It's formed in 3 parts, and the chorus is like more heavily in the first part, and then it eases off. So don't get scared. Like you'll get a break. Okay, so we begin. It's your fucking talent they were after. Wait, let me lower this down a bit. So the setting is a large gallery space. The speakers in order of appearance are the Muse. We have Saoirse here, the daughters of Mnemosyne, Memory, as they appear as the spirits of Jean Duval, Maud Salter, and Lorraine O'Grady. Chorus, that's you lovely lot at the back. Everyone who put their hands up. We have the narrator, that's me, a black woman artist in their mid-30s. We have Baudelaire, voiced by Rachel. And the italics, because you can read along, indicate when he's reading from Walter Benjamin's Les Passages or the Arcades Project. And we have a philosopher, which is Shilpa, who is voicing the words of Rizvana Bradley. 1.
Why do I fear your passion, affection, introspection, rejection, all stimulate me? Inside, my stomach churns with fear of your skin's iridescence, its smell, its taste. Already I am addicted to you.
We enter a gallery.
With our fingers, we, the 3 daughters of memory, rake the debris of the past, demanding recognition of the self.
Maud Salter, My Father's House, 1999. VHS transferred to digital film, 58 minutes.
My father's house, my farthest home.
We sit and watch.
My father's house is a work bound to the labour of mourning and the duration of the task.
It is February 2nd, 1996, 16:25. The camera struggles with colour. Blacks turn red. Processing. 16:26. A girl addresses the dead man. 16:33. She is dragged away by red turned black. The camera struggles with detail and features. The dead face twists capture, allowing only flatness, a cutout.
Now for some observations on an obsolete technology. VHS and DVD share the same 576 vertical pixels. However, the mediums diverge on the horizontal. VHS carries 250 pixels horizontally compared to DVD's 720 pixels. We should remember that both are standard definition formats, but the jump from tape to disc shifted several material properties of the video. VHS carries color in the form of composite video, meaning luminescence, the black and white signal, and 2 colour signal are combined together. This composite form of VHS causes colours and luminescence to interfere.
1637, pupils seek out the dead face. 1639, a rolling boil the breeze was watched so it doesn't overspill. A hand on the shoulder. The lines connect all things. A continuous thread. 2101. Wind interrupts the mic. Time is removed. A hymn breaks. No woman, no cry. Lace baptizes. Brushing heads. Maud appears. Thank you. The class feel out of sync. Young men change the tempo. Hips grind. The next day, the relief of grief. 8:58, Maud weeps.
There is often bleed. In particular, reds often bleed. Reds stray outside of their left and right boundaries, especially as the tape wears. With increased wear, we find misalignment between the fields and even within them, spurious noise all through the picture, remarkable fuzziness, and horizontal smearing. In an overplayed tape, facial expressions become hard to read. The details of lips, eyebrows, and nose are lost. You are unrecognizable, as if looking from a great distance.
9:16, the wailing resumes. They lift Kenti cloth to check if the coffin is still there. No magic today. Claude, he took his father's name. He became proficient in fixing contact lenses. He kept his pain to himself. 11:29, a white petticoat with a stuffed pocket. The credits roll.
2. There is something about the horizontal, a position I arrive at through the video in my father's house. The horizontal is found in both the father's supine form and the lines running through the VHS video. There are 2 figures, the poet Baudelaire and Jeanne Duval, his mistress. There are the phenomenon of muses and horizons and the idea of obsession. I want to think about all these things together, at once, or more likely in sequence. I can't do this in my own voice, so this response, that was at first an essay, has become a script, although I might rename it an essay with interruptions.
And everywhere the demand for continuous horizontal extension is so great, its new triumphal advance in the 19th century begins under the sign of the purely utilitarian structure, with those halls known as warehouses and markets, workshops and factories, the problem of railroad stations, and above all, exhibitions, leads it back to art.
In essence, horizontal describes a line drawn parallel to the horizon. I've been thinking about how we are introduced to things or to one another. Maud Salter introduced me to you, Baudelaire, and to Jeanne Duval. Later, Lorraine O'Grady would introduce me to their love. It is with Lorraine and Maud's figures that I enter the words of Baudelaire, with their hands on my shoulder. Maud said she had a visual fascination with Jeanne Duval. A visual fascination is another way to speak of an obsession. Maud was obsessed. It is not surprising, then, that Maud posing as Jeanne has become one of Maud's defining images. Jeanne's is the hand that tugs beads from Maud's neck, just as Jeanne is the line in the distance to which I now submit. The horizontal might be lovers laying side by side, lateral, lovers lying face down in reverence or submission. I wonder if what Maud desired in Jeanne was that resistant and unyielding form which Baudelaire tries to possess with his words, that dangerous girl who flaunts a cold indifference. Or was it the ability of Jeanne to so perfectly capture her condition and preserve herself within their shared language? As Lorraine O'Grady said, it's a sad admission to make, but even secondhand, through Charles's poetry, I knew Jeanne better than I knew my own mother.
Since childhood, we have served as muse to painters, poets, photographers, and musicians. Sometimes unwittingly, usually with some element of collaboration. Our ongoing visual fascination with Jeanne Duval began in 1988 with a visceral response to an Adar photograph captioned "Unknown Woman." There she stared at us, willing us to give her a name, an identity, a voice. In our funk of post-musedom, we forgot ourselves until we found a letter written to another lover, before our dearest Monsieur Baudelaire, because, of course, his mother destroyed all our letters to him, and we found ourselves again in these words. There's a loud bell. I was lying down and Louis had gone out. It could only be you. I run to open the door in my shirt. No one. But across the yard, through my curtain, I see your starling brother flying like a kite. What did you want? Come and tell me.
But what did you want? These rare words of Jeanne are fully animated. Nadar describes Jeanne's voice as mem, which translates as to even, as in still or balanced, with an accent of respectful and mysterious reserve. Might the horizontal also be a temperament, one that we find in the aura of Jeanne and her voice?
The trace is appearance of a nearness, however far removed the thing that left it behind may be. The aura is appearance of a distance, however close the thing that calls it forth. In the trace we gain possession of the thing. In the aura it takes possession of us. I speak again from Monsieur Benjamin's project, but since I hate formality, I will call him Benet, our blessed one. In Benet's big project, there are 283 mentions of love. How many of me, I hear you think? Well, to be honest, I'm still counting, but there are 18 lovers, 5 fathers, 10 horizontals. That one was at the request of our narrator. Benet is also obsessed with Paris, shopping, and of course me. But the only truth of me, he writes, is this. It must be remembered that Jeanne Duval was Baudelaire's first love. Oh, how I loved to watch while she was lazing.
The muses interrupt, raging.
It's our fucking talent you were after. At first we were fixated on our having stayed together for 20 years without either wedding or children, on the diminution of ourselves in maintaining a dysfunctional relationship so long after sexual obsession had disappeared. The lamp resigned its dying flame. Within, the hearth alone lit up the darkened air, and every time it sighed a crimson flare, it drowned in blood the amber-coloured skin. Does that not sound like us? For those are the gems by which the other work is later measured, and as they hold our tongue and our meter, and you sure as hell know that no one is going to be able to prove which of this stuff we wrote and which is the word of the master, because of course, the master is measured by the yardstick we provided.
Blackness cannot be represented in modernity's aesthetic regime, but it is foundational to every representation. That which does not belong, that which is there when there should be nothing, and nothing there when there should be something. This is what I will call anti-aesthetics, anti with an E, as in the thing that goes before, an antechamber, what we may speak of as architectures of entry.
We made possible Baudelaire's poetry. It was our intimacy and through our bodies, what you think of as his poetry arose. To be cast aside from the process as well as the object of creative production is surprisingly brutal, yet what we miss most is the privilege of seeing works in progress. And although we anger, it must be remembered that we were his first love.
It should be remembered that Jeanne Duval was Baudelaire's first love. 3.
We moved to another part of the gallery. In the catalogue, Louvain Unit writes, this important artwork is a strong critique of the stolen image, the memory of something never known, replaces the memory you never had.
An omen, so they say, an omen, so they say. I, an omen, an omen, so they say. How do we construct a language to form the fabric of our lives? We didn't ask to be in those pictures. We didn't consciously sit for them, but somehow we inhabit them. It is that somehow that we are interested in when exploring notions of the muse and what it means to be a woman artist, to take a female subject, and retrospectively what it meant to serve as a catalyst for ideas and representations in the work of others.
There is something I find uneasy and pleasing in the characterization of Jeanne Duval's gaze and eyes in Le Fleur du Mal. The eyes are mineral, glazed, cold, her gaze hard to read, unseeing. To view her is to witness a wealth ready to be extracted. However, her gaze returns nothing and will not acquiesce.
Precious minerals form our polished eyes, and in our strange symbolic nature, where angel and sphinx unite, where diamond, gold and steel dissolve into one light, shines forever, useless as a star, this sterile woman's icy majesty.
Your eyes where nothing can be seen, my soul a ship to the attraction, and seeks a far horizon.
The black bodily fragment refers to no prior future whole, but rather is conscripted as the absent centre at the corporeal division of the world, as the incompletion which enables the whole.
What if we look back from the far horizon Baudelaire invokes, that curving edge towards which poets, romanticists, and missionaries are always expanding? Hito Sterl, in her thoughts on free fall and unstable grounds, reminds us that horizon is an artificial device which suggests stability in an unstable situation. If we begin with Jeanne and move with her, not as a past, but as a position, her position at the horizon. If the horizon is Jeanne Duval, then the position we inhabit is hers, a stare of the horizon back towards us, them, you, or me, towards an unfolding now. A working title for this piece was In Jeanne's Eye. Unwittingly here, I invoked the one-eyed immobile subject, which a stable historical linear perspective demands. In our linear perspective, the whole paradigm converges in one of Jeanne's eyes. Jeanne becomes the central worldview, becomes central to the worldview established by it. Jeanne is mirrored in the vanishing point and thus constructed by it. In return, the vanishing point gives back to us herself, her body, and her position. At the point of convergence and disappearance, Jeanne emerges. If the horizon is Jeanne Duval's stare, then how would we read Maud Salter's image, Les Bijoux, that same stare that Maud utilizes, that stare that is both knowing and nonchalant? And if we consider Les Bijoux within a lineage of diasporic photography, a staged theatrical presentation of the self that would be sent from the metropole to the colony, this is a photograph that is tied to a coloniality that underlies the subject, a subject whose image is sent in a reversed line traced earlier by ships holding, this word is too tender, captives. An image that perhaps Jeanne would have sent to her family in Haiti and more to her relatives in Ghana.
So they would recognize us when we returned.
An image that Jeanne might have taken in a photo studio like the ones my father also visited, an image you keep a copy of.
So we could recognize us when we return.
These islands are seldom lacking in the negress, and her violated body is the figure in which that distance lays itself at the feet of what he, Benet means me, found near Paris of the Second Empire. When he went to meet the consumptive negress, Benet means Jeanne, who lived in the city, Baudelaire saw a much truer aspect of the French colonial empire than Dumas when he took a boat to Tunis on commission from Salabandi.
We will not be disavowed and become, by default, a misogynistic spectre, less than whole. We will excavate our life only by acknowledging the significance of the times in which we live. The year is 1989. We are still struggling to survive colonialism and imperialism. European wealth is built on the blood and bones of black people. We cannot and will not forget. Our black triangle culturally bears witness to our survival. Whether our forebears were enslaved or remained on the land, this history is ours. Now we live forever at the tip of each other's vocabularies, at the edge of the Africa we know.
Horizontally is a proper condition when it is the question of when it is the question of communications over water.
In my notebook, I draw an axis, a waving line interrupted by a column of dashes. If the horizontal is an ocean, the list is its supportive vertical. One such list forms in the cataloguing of James Island, a place both Maud and I have visited. The list, all lowercase, is in two columns, exterior and interior. They form an uneven vertical pair underneath a rough drawing of the island.
Key to the map of James Island, 1755. South Bastion, shot, passage, West Bastion, apartments, area, square tower, court, governor's room, council rooms, long rooms, East Bastion, magazine, cistern, North Bastion, entrance, bog house, slave yard for women, slave house for women, kitchen, slave house for men, slave yard for men, wood house, governor's kitchen, slave house, ruined part, long storehouse, middle storehouse, end storehouse, west landing place and gateway, smith shop, granary, west circular battery, artificer, storehouse for pitch, tar and cooperage, barracks, woodhouse, lime kiln, salt pit, north circular battery, capstan, seven-gun battery.
Black enfleshed existence is the substrate that is bound to the dissimulation of the black body as form. But as the black body exists as a violent reduction, concealment, and illusory projection of its enfleshed existence, it cannot be said to consist of the same basic elements, without moving through complicated material discursive deconstructions. It is precisely the violent immediacy to which black flesh is subject, as a boundlessly fungible commodity, as infinitely malleable, lexical, and biological matter, which enables its singular mediality, its indispensable functionality, and unremitting dehiscence within modernity's techniques and the modern life of form.
Jeanne Duval was born in Jacmel, Haiti, and emigrated to Paris in the 1830s. She met Baudelaire in 1942 when he was 21 and she was possibly the same age. We must then think of Baudelaire and Jeanne's relationship within a context of a newly independent Haiti. Haitian freedom was affirmed in part through a Treaty of Indemnity in 1825 and revised in 1838 under the title A Treaty of Friendship. The terms of this new treaty reduced Haiti's indemnity to France from 150 million francs to 60 million francs. To pay the debt, the new Haitian government borrowed money from her new friend, France.
Forever, into that splendid main, let me braid rubies, ropes of pearls to bind you indissolubly to my desire.
Haiti's debt was eventually paid off in 1947. Aged 24, 3 years after meeting Jeanne, Baudelaire's family transformed him by court order into a legal minor. As a legal minor, he had no rights socially, economically, or politically. If you are a legal minor, you cannot marry without parental consent. Before Brittany, there was Baudelaire.
Jeanne, my beloved, delicious, execrable wife, to whom I owe some money, many pleasures, so many sorrows, and perhaps to a large part my genius, I ask Mother to provide for you after my death.
She did not honor this request.
We speak with Lorraine's mother, Lena's voice in her Jamaican patois. If we could, we would go home, stretch out our hair like a bridge and cross the abyss. Because an absence can only be bridged by an active present. How we live now affects what those who shall follow us into the vaults of our national collections will discover in the future.
Indemnity levied by France as a way to exert imperial control is more commonly thought of as a protection against loss. Both Lorraine O'Grady and Maud Salter catalogued their lives well. They left many documents and traces, worked hard to enter collections. Maud even donated some works to the University of Leeds. They both shared a love for the disappeared and therefore understood too well the realities of disappearing. There is a wealth of material out there, and yet for Maud Salter, we often encounter enclosure around her output. None of her poetry publications remain in print. My copy of Passion, Discourses on Black Women's Creativity, was formerly in the holdings of Greenwich Libraries. Relationships may be similarly disregarded, in the ways that Caroline Baudelaire burnt Jean's letters to Charles and refused to provide for her after her son's death. In its most gentle etymological form, to obsess is to sit opposite. This ramps up in intensity, to preoccupy one's mind, to haunt, and finally to lay siege, an act of battle when a target is entirely surrounded to force their surrender. In all these gestures, there is a suggestion of space and a boundary between things. Obsession is a desire that is always contingent on distance. Is obsession a practice for enclosing that which is about to disappear, that which we might lose? How might we connect these thoughts and obsession with the horizontal? In a writer's group, I expressed my anxiety of this piece being too reaching. But T replies, "It is necessary to reach towards something to understand it, and that is where we find our voice." Later, R reads this: "You have to enclose something in order to pin it down and study it properly. Yes, I'm pinning down catastrophe, but in the same sense, I'm creating an enclosure that will have to be broken from eventually. I don't think Black Studies needs more enclosures to claim. I think we need to do more work to reach outside these enclosures. The problem is, if we are committed to the latter, we'd have to jettison our own self-concept as authoritative and declarative as having an understanding, which would be devastating for so many of us. To me, that's exciting. The horizon creates a falsehood. It requires stability where there is none. In its conception as a means of navigating, it was doubled, creating a false horizon, a steady line overlaying a tumultuous ocean. We might think of obsession in similar terms, a projection of a subject, a doubling, an attempt to find stability where there is none. When out walking, I seek the horizon mostly to understand what kind of weather is incoming. This seeking requires me to decide how I should prepare for what will arrive."
It takes a kind heart to feed a poet, as Lubaina knows. Coming home was not a visit to our father's compound, but some hours spent in dialogue with you. Africa waits patiently, you said. She will always be here. We alone can bury the wounds with love.
I begin to think Maud saw herself more in Baudelaire than in Jean.
The count is done. 1,589 times Binet writes my name.
Rue de Seine, a toast for April 12th. For Jean Duval and all other lovers, on as charming a day as any in spring, who at this location have over a glass dispensed gentle solicitation, some tender oral consolation, to a friend or acquaintance. Les amusements de gueule, tu connais. While waiting, yes, waiting, for him or another to show. À la tienne, slange, skål.